kids and step family and everybody gathers, he just couldn't get away. He hated it. Okay. So he says, I have so many memories with Mike. Like the day we first met, it was the first day of kindergarten. I was taller than most of the other kids in our class. And right at the start of the day, Mike came up to me. He looked up at me with no other introduction and said, "Man, did you flunk?" Brad says, I'm sure I said something that passed for kindergarten wit. From that day on, we were buddies. There are countless other memories, playing Dungeons and Dragons, building 2 full-size spaceships from cardboard in the rec room at his house on Grant Street. Do you remember that?
Brad was there a lot.
That's pretty funny. And listening to the latest Styx album, so many good times. But one memory really stands out, and I want to share it with you all. It was the summer of 1983, and Mike and I were in driver's ed together. Brian Farr and Chris Duncan, who was the teacher? Brian Farr and Chris Duncan made up our driving foursome. On that first day, we were supposed to actually drive a real car. I rode my bike from my house on North Washington Street to the high school. Knowing me, I was probably worried about being late, so I left early to make sure I'd be there by the assigned time. I remember parking my bike at the rack in the front of the high school, not far from where the school buses lined up. As I looked across the road, I saw Mike's mom's car in the parking lot of the little church that used to sit at the end of South Harrison. Oh, Mike's mom must have driven him to driver's ed. Cool, I thought. Then I saw the driver get out of that car. It was Mike. He had a big goofy smile on his face as he walked the grass by the tennis courts. Mike had driven himself to driver's ed. That was my friend. That was a good one. I just wanted to add just a couple things about Mike. I think most of us would say he was funny. Like, I've known Mike the whole span of my life. I can't even limit it to just high school. I mean, it's just been like most of us in this class, I'm so blessed because it's an in and out thread through my whole life. My husband always thinks it's weird because, if I'm talking to somebody from my class on the phone, he'll hear me go, okay, love you, bye. And he'll go, who's that? It's just one of my class. It was James recently. But that's just how we are as a class. But Mike was so funny. And wherever he was either laughing or making people laugh, but he did it in like the sneakiest way. Just like James said, he wasn't trying to be the center of attention. He just wanted to see people dying laughing. And so I remember in band, he was in the percussion section, which always stood at the top. And it's boring or whatever. And there's these people, all the percussion people up there, and every now and then there would just be like a big commotion. Yeah. There'd be like a cymbal would get knocked over, the whole drum set would be knocked over or whatever, and you'd see everyone up there like bending over or like this, like dying laughing, trying to hold it together, and then in the middle Mike could be like, and you knew he did it because he was the only one he was just hilarious. Everywhere he was, you never knew what he was going to do. You never knew what he was going to say. But you wanted to be there when he did it because it was hilarious. But I will echo what James said about Mike doing that Appalachian Trail. And it was so cool to hear him afterwards talk about kind of the spiritual journey, how he felt so close to God. And I think that has stayed with him ever since then, even though it's been a few years. And when he got back, he said, oh, you got to go to this place called Tuckaleechee Caverns. It's somewhere on the Appalachian. He knew we always go to Gatlinburg. And I was like, Tuckaleechee Caverns? I've never heard of that. We've been to Gatlinburg since I was a kid. So sure enough, the next time we went, I saw the sign on the interstate. It's like this beat up old sign. And I go, I don't know. But Mike was like, no, trust me, you have to go. Your kids will think, boys will think it's so cool. So we did. We went to this place, and I would have never gone in there except Mike had given us such a good review. And it was this huge underground cave. And we went way back in. There was like a mom and pop place. You could go in the store and go under. It was a huge, giant, like the size of a football field, underground. Really cool thing we wouldn't have known about. But I just so appreciated how Mike was just a loyal friend. I mean, beyond all the funny stuff he did, he was a shower-upper. You know what I mean? Like, when I went to my mom's funeral, he was one of the first people there. He was there, I think, before my brothers got there. And we had this, like, a meaningful conversation. It wasn't just like, oh, sorry for your loss. That's always how it was. Whenever I would see him, it was always a real conversation. It was always genuine caring and not just a surface level conversation. And that kind of loyal friendship, that's hard to find. I think we're so spoiled in this class because we have so much of it, but in the real world, it's kind of rare. And I really appreciated that about Mike. And I just was thinking, I was thinking, you know, when we've lost some of these people, and a lot of us have lost parents or whatever, I have a verse that has meant a lot to me. And I am not a theologian. I'm not saying that I'm interpreting this the exact right way, but I'm interpreting how it's meant to me. It's 1 Corinthians 3:12. And I'm using the Message translation, so it's kind of casual, but it says, we don't yet see things clearly. We're squinting in a fog, peering through a mist. But it won't be long before the weather clears and the sun shines bright. We'll see it all then. See it as clearly as God sees us, knowing him directly just as he knows us. And whenever I hear this verse, I always think, because my gut reaction, when I lose someone suddenly like Mike, that we had no idea, is always like, did he know? Like, did he know how much we cared? Did he know how loved he was? I mean, the words come out of my mouth. Did he know? This verse makes me think that even though maybe when he was here, and you're, like it said, like the verse says, you're kind of squinting through a fog, or I think the other translation says you're kind of looking in a mirror, you kind of think you know how the world works and how people are. But once you are in heaven and once you're with God, you see so clearly. And I believe that you do see then how loved you were and how much you meant to people and how all those little things that he did and his, all of his caring ways, now I believe he can really see what those meant to all of us. So anyway, thank you, Mrs. Maroney, for just such a gift that Mike has been to all.